Hi there, Adam here from Interplay, and in this video I'm going to show you how to import your code components into Interplay. For this video I'm going to import Reactstrap as an example. Reactstrap is a library of high quality React components that use Bootstrap CSS. To run the import I'm going to follow these getting started steps at docs.interplay.io. As it says here, once you receive your invite email you can click on it to create your account and team. Doing that brings you to this welcome screen with a 2-minute overview video and a button to import your first code library. We want to add a code library, so I'll choose Create New Library and give it a name. And it gives me a checklist of things to do to import and publish this library. First thing on our checklist is to import the code, so we'll go in there and it shows me the commands to run. First up is installing the Interplay CLI, so let's do that now. I'm going to copy the command it has here and paste it into my terminal to run the install. And what we're installing here is our CLI or command line tool that automatically parses your code components and deploys them to Interplay. You'll notice that we're installing the CLI and the plugin for React. Plugins for other frameworks will be available soon, starting with Vue. And this plugin approach allows Interplay to adapt to your needs over time as you adopt new code frameworks. Right, now that's finished installing, so we're all set to import some code. Now to run the import, the first thing we need is a copy of the Reactstrap code. So I'll clone that from GitHub now. There's nothing Interplay about this, I'm just cloning the Reactstrap code and installing the dependencies. Now while the packages are installing, let's have a look at the repo for what Interplay needs to run your components. We need 3 things: an index of your components, a build of your components, and some examples of your components. So we'll look in the Reactstrap repo for those 3 things and explain what I mean by them. First, the component index. So here's the source folder of components, and you'll see that Reactstrap already has an index of components here at source index.js. Interplay uses this index as an entry point to find all your components. So our requirement here is that this index file exports each component individually like this. It could also export star from another index that does export them individually. The next thing, so we've got the index, the next thing we need is a build of this component index. So build of your components, and we need the build to be of this same index, so the 2 match up. Reactstrap already has a script set up for that, so we can just run yarn build. Now for most repos, this step usually means running your normal Webpack or rollup build process using the component index as the entry point. The build we create here is the code that gets deployed to Interplay. So the output can be an uglified file, just as you would for deploying your components in a public web application. You can also output a set of transpiled source files, and the CLI will bundle them for you. For Reactstrap, the build is completed, and output a build for us here at dist/reactstrap.js. So we've got our index and we've got a build, and the third thing we said we needed is some examples. Now the easiest way to understand examples is to see them online. Here we have examples of button, in other words, different configurations of the button component that we can display. Now if we wanted, we could just import the build file and go into Interplay and manually configure all these examples again. But instead we'll get the CLI to automatically generate our config from the JSX in these existing example files. If you wanted to, you could of course create a dedicated set of examples for Interplay. For now we'll just note that the existing examples are in the docs lib examples folder. So we've installed the Interplay CLI, we've got our index, build and examples ready. It's time to run the import. To do this, we just go to the base folder of our repo and type Interplay. The CLI will now ask us some questions about our repo, so let's walk through them now. The first thing it asks is what framework we're using. We'll say React so that it loads the React plugin that we installed. Now we need to set our authentication token from Interplay, so I'll copy that from the instruction screen and paste that in. So now it's asking which packages to import. In this case we only have one, so that's already selected. If you have multiple packages, then choose your components packages here and any other source packages in your repo that your components require. And then for each package that we're importing, we need to give it our paths to the index for that package and the build for that package. In this case there's only one package, and we've already found the index and build, so we'll put those in. And as we enter these paths, it's showing me what exports it found for each one, so that I know that I'm choosing the right files. So we've told it about our index and our build, and now we need to tell it where those examples files are. We can use a wildcard to match all the files in that examples folder, and the CLI will go looking for fragments of JSX in each one. And lastly, we just need to tell Interplay whether there's any files that we want to, anything else we want to include on the page when we're using the components. Now for Reactstrap, we do need to include the Bootstrap CSS, so we give it the URL there. But there's nothing else we need to do, so we'll just kick off the import now. And basically, the importer is going to use those settings that we found. It's going to use that index file to go looking and find all of the component source files and parse those. The next thing it's going to do is load up those 134 example files and go trawling through them looking for fragments of JSX where the components are used. And then it basically does a reconciliation between everything we've told it and generates a configuration file and a build file for Interplay. So that's completed now. It's deployed the build and the config to Interplay, and it's given us a URL that we can open to view our library online. Opening that URL brings us back to our checklist, where we can see that Interplay is generating preview images of the components that we've loaded. These images are used to display the components in the various menus in Interplay. When you use the components in the plugins, you are of course using the real code components. We'll just give that a minute or two to run and then come back. Well, that's completed, so now we can go and browse all the code components we've imported. For each component, we can see the properties the CLI has parsed in from the source code and the examples it's found. And we have various options here that let library owners really edit and control all this and control how the components are presented and communicated to your designers. We'll cover this in another video. For now, we'll just click home to go back to our dashboard checklist. And the last thing we'll do just now is to publish a release of our components. Now, publishing a release makes this library of code components available to your team in the Figma and Sketch plugins. The next time you run the CLI, it will use the same import settings again to import any code changes, and they would appear as changes here when you publish your next release. So in this way, you can run the CLI over time and keep your design tools up to date with your component changes. That's all for now. Thank you for watching, and please let us know how you get on with your imports. We'd love to help with any questions you have. Thank you.